This is the area script that we created. Now let's do another exercise. So let's create a couple of points, random points in an area, and then let's focus on how we can generate random heights on those points in that random area or in that random points in the area, and then how we can plot that information on top of each line. So in order to proceed with that, I go to vector, and underneath grid, I'll grab a populate 2D component. And populate 2D component generates this on point 0, 0, 0, 0, but I need something over here. That's why I'll be creating a region. That's a rectangle. Very like set one rectangle, and let's create a rectangle here. And you see it already generates 100 points in seed one and number of or original points if you have any. So this is my region. Let's say we have 100 points, let's say 50 points here. And seed is basically the trigger of the randomness. So if we put, I don't know, like 102, you see it generates this random pattern or random location for the points as you move through the slider. And you can define your pre-existing points or organization here as well, but we don't need that. So the good thing about this is we have 50 points here, and what I can do is I can create a random value. So if I go to set under list, I can create, under sequence, I can create random. Random is a component in which we create random values. So it requires a range, it requires number of random values, and a seed, which again changes the randomness in a sense. So let's say we are going to create a range of, we can create a domain in between like 100 and I don't know, 2000. Okay, and then put it over here. And then the other thing, the next thing that I'll be doing, how many numbers we are having. So we can connect this count to here as well. Whenever we have, like if we have, for instance, 26 points, we will have 26 random values. They are all connected to one another. And seed can be, I don't know, seed can be this time different, let's say 200. And if I pull out a panel here, what I'm seeing is the different heights. But obviously it's creating these as like numbers with some decimals. I can just type round and round this to the nearest values so that I always know how to proceed with this. And the next thing, how I am going to use this information to create lines, right? Because my line's supposed to be created by these points, and let's say we are creating lines on that direction, or like we are creating lines going towards the sky. So if I go to curve, and under primitive, I'll grab line STL. Line STL is a component where you see three inputs. First is the start, which is our points. Second is the direction. The direction is going to be set in our case. The third is going to be the length, which we are using the nearest values. So if you take a look at these lines, now what we see is we are having lines that are in different heights, random heights. So if I pull, I don't know, like 100 lines, and maybe if we crank this up a bit, what we see is we have lines that are changed here in terms of their heights. And if we change the locations, we can change the locations, or we can change the distribution. So if I preview this off, what I'm seeing here is lines that are created on top of our points. So how I can extract this information of the lengths on top of these lines? So what I can do here is basically I can grab what can be useful in this end is maybe to get the endpoint of each line. So we are going to plot the text on top of each line. So I can grab my endpoints, and we have start and endpoints here. Why it's extracted both? Because this component takes out the lines or the curves starting and the endpoints. If I go to display, if I go to preview dot display, under dot display, what I can have is I can have the endpoints, okay, and the color is black now. I can put a color swatch to change this, and if I zoom in, you see I see the points, but they're too tiny right now. So what I can say for the size is, I don't know, let's say 50 to see. I mean, we are seeing it, but it's a bit off, so let's make it a bit larger. So we now know where to plot the information. And if you right click to it, it says lazy and greedy. Well, I mean, these are the types in which we show different points, I think, but I don't know the difference, to be honest. So this is our point visualization in which we are going to plot the length or height information. The second thing is we are going to use again the tag, text tag, and our locations are these points, and our text is going to be this nearest. However, we want to concatenate this with height, right? So what we can say instead, starting with this, and let me plot this over. Okay, what do we see now? We are seeing these values, right? We are seeing all these values, and if I pull out a swatch, color swatch, let's make it bluish this time, okay, and put it over here as my color. You see, yeah, it's too blue now. So something like this maybe, okay. And what we can do next is to provide why are we using starting with this? What we can do is we can start maybe putting some different information. For instance, what we can type is height, and putting it at the beginning of this text fragment. Put this one next. You see, now what I'm doing is I put the height, and then I put the information right next to it, and then I can say, adding another slot, and then put millimeters. Now this means height is for each line is plotted over, and we can see, for instance, if I zoom in, height for this one is 755, for instance. Okay, so, and obviously if I create this seed, if I change this seed, we see things are being changed, or changing this, things are being changed, things are being changed, so on and so forth. But you see, I am seeing a lot of different heights based on the buildings. We can use this text information to understand how high the building that we are working on, or what is the volume that we are working on, or what is the area that we are working on, so on and so forth. I mean, if you don't like the view of this point, you can preview this off. You can just take a look at it, look at them like this. If you like it, you can put it in. You can maybe change the plot color to something else, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much it for this video. Obviously, I can pull out a scribble. Let me rearrange this plot area. This is not for this, but I forgot to put it on the previous video, so now I put it in, and I can connect it to here as a group, and this time plot heights, and recolor this group. So that's pretty much it for this video. Now you know how to plot the heights of the curves. This might be very useful if you're using, or if you're dealing with creating site analysis, if you're trying to understand the height in a certain context, and so on and so forth. So I'll see you in the next video.